settled in and they love the house.
Yeah,
And
I
it's,
saw pictures of it. Oh, good.
yeah, and the kids, Sammy gave me a tour, and then when he said, "Let me show you our house,"
How
oh,
many,
and
how many rooms?
I don't know how many rooms, but it's 2,800 square feet, three
Wow,
stories.
they're probably like, wow.
So, so Winnie says, "I need to talk to Grandpa." We were doing a video tour, and she says, "Grandpa, this room is for your woodworking because you could put all your woodworking." Oh my God, the best, the best. Shabbat shalom. I hope we have some of you viewing from home. It would be lovely to know that. Page 99. Elohai neshama shenata tabi tehora tehorahi Elohai neshama shenata tabi tehora Tihorahi. My God, the soul that you have given me is pure. You created it, you formed it, you breathed it into me. You watch over it when it is in me. In the future, you will take it from me, but then restore it to me in the world that is coming. As long as this soul is within me, I thank you, Adonai, my God, and God of my ancestors, ruler of all creation, master of all souls, Baruch atah Adonai, who restores the soul to the lifeless form. Elohai neshama shenata tabi tehora tehorahi. I invite you to stand for Birchot HaShachar on page 103. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sek v'bina lechavin ben yom uven laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzamo she'asani bat chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Malbish arumim mahatir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Zokef kifufim rokaret al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamechin mitzadei gaber she'asa li kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten liyav koach. Lai 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 lai. We're on the bottom of 104. Neinu hayom uvichol yom lecheinu lechesed urachamim beinecha uveinu choreinu v'tigmalenu chasadim tovim. Baruch atah Adonai gomer chasadim tovim li'amo Yisrael. Page 106. Silently on 105 and then 106. At the top of 106 at the triangle, Ashrenu ma tov chelkenu ma naim koralenu uma yafa Yerushatenu. Ashrenu שאנחנו משכימים ומרהיבים ערב הבוקר ואומרים פעמיים בכל יום שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. קדש את שמך מקדישי שמך וקדש את שמך בעולמך ובשעתך תרים ותגביה קרננו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש את שמך ברבים. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome. We're on page 112. היום יום שבת קודש שבו היו הלוויים אומרים בבית המקדש מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך העליון. צדיק תמר יפרח כרס בלבנון יזכה שתולים בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו עוד ינבון בשיבה ושנים רענים יהיו להגיד שר אדוני Surim below avlatabo. We turn to 114, the Psalm for Rosh Chodesh. Please join me in the English at the top. Let me praise Adonai, for you, Adonai, my God, are surely great, clothed in glory and majesty, wrapped in a cloak of light. You stretch out the heavens like a sheet of cloth, set the rafters of the heights of the waters above, appoint clouds as your chariot, and ride on the wings of wind, marking the winds your messengers and lightning flashes your sentries. Please continue silent until the last paragraph. On 115 at the bottom, last paragraph together in English. May the glory of Adonai endure forever. May God, who but looks upon the earth and it quakes, touches the mountains and they smoke. Rejoice in what has been created. Alive I shall sing to Adonai. As long as I am, I will make music in praise of my God. May my words be pleasing to Adonai, that I may truly rejoice. May sinning cease from the earth, transgressions be no more. Barchi nafshi et Adonai. Hallelujah. Page 120. Page 120. Aromimecha Adonai ki dilitani velo samakto evaili. We're on page 120, 8 lines up from the bottom. Elecha Adonai ekra v'yel Adonai etchana. Elecha Adonai ekra v'yel Adonai etchanan. Shema Adonai mechoneni Adonai cheye ozer li. Shema Adonai bechoneni Adonai cheye ozer li. Hafakta mispadi lemacholi pitakta sakiva tazreinu simcha leman yizarmecha chavo velo yidom Adonai Elohai leolam odeka. I invite you to stand for Baruch She'amar on page 122. Yida die, yida die, yida die, 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 yida die, 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 die. Yida die, yida die, yida die, yida die, 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 die. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam. Baruch hu. Baruch oseh v'reishit. Baruch Omer ve'oseh. Baruch Ozer u'mekayim. Baruch mirachem al haaretz. Baruch mirachem al habriot. Baruch mishalem sachar tov l'reav. Baruch chai la'ad. V'kayam la'netzach. Baruch Podeh Umatzil. Baruch Shimon. Yida die, yida die, yida die, 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 yida die, 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 die. Yida die, yida die, yida die, yida die, 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 die. Katana Elohim Melech. Yachi Chayolamim Melech Mishubach Umfaradei Ad Shemo Hagadol Baruch Atah Adonai Melech Mechula Batishbachot. You may be seated. 136. Ahashrei Yoshvei Veitecha Ojech Hallelujah. Oh, Hallelujah, Selah, Ashrei, Yoshvei, Veitecha. Oh, Hallelujah, oh, Hallelujah, Selah. Tehillat Adonai Yidaber Pi Vivarech Kol Basar Shem Kodsho Leolam Va'ed V'anaknu Nivarech Ya Me'ata V'ad Olam. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Page 141. You know what to do. Hallelujah, 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 El Bikocho, hallelujah, hallelujah, Berki Auzo. Hallelujah, 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 big burotal, hallelujah, hallelujah, kirov gudlo. Hallelujah, 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 b'teika shofar, hallelujah, hallelujah, b'nevel v'chinor. Hallelujah, 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 b'tofu machom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, b'meaning v'ugav. Hallelujah, 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 hallelu, b'tzil tzilei shama. Hallelu, hallelu, b'tzil tzilei t'ruah. Kol hanshama tehalelia, kol hanshama tehalelia, kol hanishama tehalelia, hallelujah. Kol hanishama tehalelia, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen v'Amen. Baruch Adonai Mitzion Shekein Yerushalayim. Hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim, Elohei Yisrael, Osenim Pelot Levado, Uvaruch Shen Kevodo Le'olam v'Yimalei Kevodo et Kol Haaretz. Amen v'Amen. You may be seated. Page 145. Nishmat Kol Chai Tevarech et Shimcha Adonai Eloheinu V'ruach Kol Basar Tivaeru Tromein Zikrecha Malkeinu Tamid Min haolam v'yad haolam Ata el umi baladecha Ein lanu melech ohel Mashiach Magid. Please join me in the English, about 8 or 10 lines up, on 145. Where our mouths filled with song as the sea, our tongues to sing endlessly like countless waves, our lips to offer limitless praise like the sky, our eyes to shine like the sun and the moon, our arms to spread heavenward like eagle's wings, and our feet swift as deer, we would still be unable to fully express our gratitude to you, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, or to praise your name for even one of the myriad moments of kindness with which you have blessed our ancestors and us. 146. Mi Mitzrayim gilitanu, Adonai Eloheinu, mi beit avadim pilitanu. Put the barf in barchi notion. We are on page 146 at the very bottom, 2 lines up, 2 words in. Shabbat Shalom. Barchi, barchi nafshi et Adonai, v'kol kravai et shem kodsho. Barchi, barchi nafshi et Adonai, v'kol kravai et shem kodsho. Ha'el b'tatzumot uzecha, hagadol b'hikvot shemecha, hagibor lanetzach. B'hanora, b'noratecha, ha'melech ha'yoshem, al kisei rambinisa. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. So we got summer months and we've got a minyan before we hit into Shacharit. Very nice. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I just had a thought as we were davening, which is that some of us are familiar that in ancient times, the way that preparation for sacred service in the temple was to immerse in a mikvah. The priest would immerse in a mikvah fully as a way of kind of preparing to be in that place of serving God. And I'm almost thinking that really our preliminary prayers, this last part before we move into Shacharit, is like that mikvah of going in. And if you can just imagine for a moment, whether you've experienced a mikvah before or can just imagine in your mind what it's like to be fully immersed in purifying waters, life-giving waters, a way that just, when you immerse in a mikvah, you don't touch any edges or boundaries. So there's really that sense of boundlessness that's in there and renewal. And so just my invitation is that as we sing together, that image of being purified and washed, that really the melodies, the rhythms, our voices become that place of purification for our prayer. Shochenat marom vekadosh shemo Shochenat marom vekadosh shemo vechatuv ranenu tzadikim Adonai la yesharim nava nava tehila shokenat marom vekadosh shemo Shokenat marom vekadosh shemo befi sharim titalal uvdivrei tzadikim titbarak Shochenat marom vekadosh shemo Shochenat marom vekadosh shemo ubilshon chasidim titromam uvkerev kedoshim Titkadash, Shochenat marom vekadosh shemo Shochenat marom vekadosh shemo makalot revivot Amcha Beit Yisrael Berina Yidvar Shimcha Malkeinu Vechol Dor Vador Shochenat marom vekadosh shemo Shochenat marom vekadosh shemo Shekein chovat kol yitzrim lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu lehodot lehalel leshabeach lefaer leromem lahader levarech la'alel kales o kol tivrei shiro patishbachot David ben Yishai Avdecha Meshichecha 148 please stand Yishtabak Shimcha Le'ad Malkeinu Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol VeKadosh B'Shamayim Va'aretz Ki Lecha Na'eh Adonai Eloheinu Ve'Elohei Avotenu. Fourth line. Shiru Shvacha Halev Ezimra Ozu Memshala Netzach Gedula Ugevora Tehila V'Tiferet Kedusha Umalchut Berachot Ve'hodaot Me'ata ve'ad olam. All our praise we sing unto you. Berachot ve'hodaot me'ata ve'ad olam. All our praise we sing unto you. Yai lai ya la lai, yai ya la 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 lai. Yai, yai, ya la lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, yai, ya la lai, yai, ya la 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 lai. Yai, lai, ya la lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Berachot ve'hodaot me'ata ve'ad olam. All our praise we sing unto you. Berachot ve'hodaot me'ata ve'ad olam. All our praise we sing unto you. Baruch atah Adonai, el melech gadol b'tishbachot, el ha'odaot Adonai niflaot, habocher b'shrei zimra, melech elchei ha'olamim, yitkada v'yitkada shmei rabbah, ve'almad divrak yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayei chonu v'yomei chonu v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'gala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorak le'olamo me'omaya, yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal, shemei dekudesha berichu, leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma, v'imru amen. Ai, lai, yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Ai, ai. Ai, rai, rai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Ay, 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 Baruch Hu, et Adonai, HaMevorach, HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Leolam va'ed, Leolam va'ed. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, lai. Ay, lai, lai. Ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, 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 Baruch atah Adonai ובורא חושך עושה שלום ובורא את הכל איי 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 הכל יודוך והכל שבחוך והכל יאמרו כן קדוש אדוני אין קרקך ואין זולתך, אפס פלתך ומדומה לך. אין קרקך, אדוני אלוהינו בעולם הזה, ואין זולתך מלכנו לחיי העולם הבא. אפס פלתך גואלנו לימות המשיח, ואין דומה לך מושיענו לתחיית המתים. 151. אל אדונו כל המעשים ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה גולו וטובו מלא עולם דעת ותבונה סובבים אותו המתגאה על חיות הקודש ונדר וכבוד על המרכבה זכות ומישור לפני כיסו חסד ורחמים לפני קבו לי 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 טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו יצרם בדעת בבינה ובהשכל כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים וטרף קבר מלים זיו ומפיקים נוגה נאה זיוום בכל העולם שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם עושים באימה רצון כל נמי לי 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 פאר וכבוד נונים לשמו סולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרח אורה והתקין צורת הלבנה שבח נונים לו כל צבא מרום תפארת וגדולה שרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש יאי לי 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 יאללה לי 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 ay ay la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya ay 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 la 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 ay 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 la ya la 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 ay ay la ay la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya 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 152 לאל אשר שבת מכל מעשים ביום השביעי עליו ישב על כיסא כבודו. יום השבת מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודו לאדוני. תתברך מושיענו על שבח מעשה ידיך ועל מאורי אור שעשית יפארוך הסלע. 153 תתברך צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו בורא קדושים. כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים וכולם עושים באימה ובירא רצון קונם. וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה ובתורה, בשירה ובזמרה, ומברכים ומשבחים ופרים ומריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול, הגיבור והנורא הקדוש הוא, וכולם מקבלים עליהם ומלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה, להקדיש לו תרם בנחת רוח, בשפה ורוח ונימה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. באופנים וחיות הקודש, ברש גדול מנסים לעומת צרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. לאל ברוך נמותיתנו, למלך אל חי וקיים זמירות נמשכות. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, lai, lai. Ay, lai, lai, ay, ay, ay. Ay, lai, 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 lai. Ay, lai, lai, ay, lai. Ay, 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 or chadash, al Zion ta'ir, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. Ay, 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 ay. 154. Ahava Rabba Avtanu. Adonai Eloheinu Chem La'Gila Tulai. והערננו בתורתך ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך ויחל לבבינו לאהבה ויראה את שמך ולא נבוש לעולם ועד ולא נבוש לעולם ועד כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו נגילה ונשמחה נגילה ונשמחה בשועתך והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו כי אל פועל ישועות אתה ובנו בחרת מכל עם ולשון וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת להודות לך ויחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, וברכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, וישערך. והיה אם שמוע תשמעו אל מצותי, שמצוותי Adonai Elohechem emet v'yatziv nachon v'kayam v'yashar v'neman v'hu v'chaviv nechmad v'na'im v'nora v'adir umtukam umkubal v'tao v'yafa hadavar hazeh aleinu le'olam va'ed. 157. Emet Elohei olam malkeinu tzur Yaakov magen yishenu ledor v'ador hu kayam u'shmo kayam v'chiso nachon u'malchuto v'emunato la'ad kayamet u'dvarav chayim v'kayamim ne'amanim v'nechmadim la'ad u'mei olamim. Truly you are Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, our sovereign and our ancestors' sovereign, our Redeemer and our ancestors' Redeemer. You are our Creator and the rock of our deliverance, our Redeemer and our help. So you are known throughout time. Ein Elohim zulatecha, Ezrat avotenu atahu me'olam. Emet atahu rishon ve'atahu acharon miladecha en lanu melech oelu Moshiach. Mimitraim ga'altanu Adonai Eloheinu bebet avadim beditanu. 158. kadasha shibchu geulim leshimcha al sefatayam yachad kulam hodu vehim lechu ve'ameru Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Ay la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 yai la 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 la. Yai yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai yai la la la. Ay ay la la la. Yai la 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 la. In a minute, we'll finish the blessing on 158 and then move into the Amidah. Some of us are aware that besides it being Shabbat, it is also Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, the new month of Tammuz. And one of my teachers, Rabbi David Zeller, used to drash Rosh Chodesh, which means we know head of the month, Rosh Chodesh, but Chodesh also is Chadash, which means new. And so Rosh Chodesh could be understood as when we get a new head or a new consciousness, a new way of experiencing and seeing the world. And Rosh Chodesh, in this moment of renewal of the new month, is really about that. And it's really considered by our tradition a time of tshuva. That Rosh Chodesh is, another name for Rosh Chodesh is Yom Kippur Katan, a little Yom Kippur. Every month there's this sense that as we renew, we set our attention towards what we're truly connected to and what we're truly at home with. We really make this effort to have this new head. So if we started off our service with the invitation to imagine the preliminary prayers as a mikveh, as this immersion to kind of clean out and renew, want to really invite that our Amidah prayer and our Psalms of Praise with Hallel also be this other instrument of renewal, of being able to come and see the month anew. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that every month has usually a special something in it, a special holiday or something. And we're beginning this month with the 17th of Tammuz, a very sad, difficult time, and really actually begins right in the height of the summer. We're about to enter in this month what's called the 3 weeks, or the Bein HaMetzarim, which is the time that's between the narrow straits. And it's really amazing that in this height of summer, where there's so much light and so much warmth, we're meant in our tradition to really tune into those places where we feel narrow, where we feel constricted, and where we feel pain, not as a way to avoid it, but to open to it and embrace it and know that right now we have community and light to be able to be real about it and sanctify it. So that's really the invitation as we come into our new renewal month today, into this time to really be open to God's presence and teaching and Torah in all the places we find it, even the darker places. We'll do the last part of 158 together. We'll do the first 3 blessings together in the Amidah, and as we go into silence, there's the Yaleh Yavo prayer. There's a special piece just for Rosh Chodesh, which you can keep attuned to in the Siddur. Please stand if you're able. Tzur Yisrael, Kuma ve'ezrat Yisrael, Uvtechinu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Go aleinu, Adonai Tzevaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot, Umevi Goel Lifnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Ufoked Umoshia Umagen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ufoked Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye Metim Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Metim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofe Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishanei Afar, Micha Mocha Bal Givurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atah Lechayot Metim. Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaMetim. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאיך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melo kol haaretz kivodo. Az bekor ra'ash kado, adir v'chazak mashmi'im ko, minasim lumatzrafim, Numatam Meshabchim Ve'omrim. Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomo Mimkomcha Malkeinu Tofia V'timloch Aleinu Ki Mechakim Anachnu Lach Matai timloch b'tzion, v'karo b'yameinu, le'olam va'ed tishkon. Titgadal v'titgadash, b'toch Yerushalayim ircha ledor v'ador ulenetzach netzachim ve'enenu tirena malchutecha kadavar amor b'shirei uzecha al yedei David Mashiach zikecha. Imloch Adonai leolam Elohai Zion, ledor vador hallelujah, ledor vador nagid kolecha, ulenetzach netzachim kedushatcha nagdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed, ki el melech gadol v'kadosh atah, Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Continue on 162 to 166. He's Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Yaleh v'Yavov V'Yagiv V'Yireh V'Yiretzeh. Rosh HaChodesh Hazeh. Abiyut. Hosei Shalom Bimromav. Uyasei Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel. Ve'imru. Amen. Yalla la 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 la. Yalla la la la. Yalla la 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 la. Yalla la 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 la. Yalla la 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 la. We're on page 316 for Hallel. Please stand if you're able, and let's set the tone for this new month. 316. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu likro et hallel. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, Avdei Adonai, Hallelujah, et Shem Adonai, Yehi Shem Adonai, Mevorach, Me'ata ve'ad olam, Mizrach Shemesh ad Mevoro, Me'ula Shem Adonai, Ram Hal Kol Goyim, Adonai al shamayim kevodo, mikadonai Eloheinu, hamagbi halashab, mashpili lirot bashamayim uva'aretz, Kimi mea farda, mea shpot yarim, evyon lehoshivi, im nedivei amo, moshivi akeret habayit, im abanim smecha, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. B'tzeit Yisrael mi Mitzrayim beYaakov me'am lo'ez. B'tzeit Yisrael mi Mitzrayim beYaakov me'am lo'ez. Hayta Yehuda lekodesho Yisrael mam shlotav aylai. Hayam Raviyanus Hayarden Yisov le'achor Heharim rakdu ke'elim Kivaot kivnei tzon Mililecha hayam kitanus Hayarden Yisov le'achor Heharim tirkedu ke'elim Yevaot kivnei tzon ay. Milifnei Adon chuli aretz milifnei Elohai Yaakov Hahov chi atzora gamayim Halamish lemayno mayim Yalai lai 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 Yalai lai 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 Yalai lai 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 Yalai lai 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 Yalai lai Yalai lai 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 Yalla nai nai yana na na nai 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 yai nai nai yana nai 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 yana nai nai yana na na nai. 3:17 in the middle. Adonai Zecharanu Yevarech, Yevarech et Beit Yisrael, Yevarech et Beit Aharon, Yevarech Yirei Adonai, Hakatanim im Hegadolim, Yosef Adonai Alechem, Alechem ve'albenechem, Beruchim atem l'Adonai, Oseh shamayim va'aretz, Hashamayim, shamayim l'Adonai, Va'aretz natan livnei Adam, Lo hametim lehalleluya, Ve'lo kol yordei duma, Va'nachnu nevarech ya, Me'ata ve'ad olam, Me'ata ve'ad olam. Hallelujah. 3:18 in the middle. Ma'ashiv l'Adonai kol tamuli alai kos yeshuot esal v'shem Adonai. 5th line from the bottom. Ana Adonai, Ana Adonai, Ki ani avdecha. Ana Adonai, Ana Adonai, Ki ani avdecha. Ani avdecha, ben amatecha. Ani avdecha, ben amatecha. Ani avdecha, ben amatecha. Ki taktalim surai. Try that. Ana Adonai, Ana Adonai, Ki ani avdecha. Ana Adonai, Ana Adonai, Ki ani avdecha. Ani avdecha. Ben amatecha, ani avdecha. Ben amatecha, ani avdecha. Ben amatecha, pitakta lim surai. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya 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 la la ya la la Lecha ezbach sevach toda, uvashem Adonai ekra, nedarai ladonai ashalem, negdana lecha amo, lecho amo, bechatrot beit Adonai, betochechi Yerushalayim, Hallelujah. 3:19. Hallelujah et Adonai, Kol goyim shabchuchu, shabchuchu, Kol ha'umim, ki gavar aleinu, aleinu chasto be'emet Adonai le'olam hallelujah. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov ki le'olam chasto yomar na Yisrael. Yomar na Yisrael ki le'olam chasto yomru na beit Aharon yomru na beit Aharon ki le'olam chasto yomru na yirei Adonai yomru na yirei Adonai ki le'olam chasto min ha-metzar karatiha Anani b'merchavya min ha-metzar karatia Anani b'merchavya. Try that again. Min ha-metzar karatia Anani b'merchavya min ha-metzar karatia Anani b'merchavya. Adonai li lo yira ma yasem yasali adam Adonai li lo yira ma yaseli adam. Adonai li lo tov l'Adonai. 3:20. Ozi v'zimratia v'yechili l'shua korina rishua. We're at the arrow, first paragraph, 3:20. Pitchuli sharei tzedek avova modeya. Pitchuli sharei tzedek avova modeya. Zeh hashar ladonai tzadikim yavovo. Zeh hashar ladonai tzadikim yavovo. Odecha ki anitani vati li leshua. Odecha ki anitani bati li lishua. Even masu habonim haita lerosh bina. Even masu habonim haita lerosh bina. Ve'eta Adonai haita zot hiniflaot ve'enenu. Ve'eta Adonai haita zot hiniflaot ve'enenu. Ze hayom asa Adonai nagila v'nismecha bo. Ze hayom asa Adonai nagila v'nismecha bo. This is going to be a call and response. Ana Adonai Hoshiana. Ana Adonai Hoshiana. Ana Adonai Hatzlichana. Ana Adonai Hatzlichana. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, berachnuchem mebeit Adonai. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, berachnuchem mebeit Adonai. El Adonai ve'ya'er lanu, Yisruk agvavotim atkonot hamizbeach. El Adonai ve'ya'er lanu, Yisruk agvavotim atkonot hamizbeach. Eli ata ve'oteka, Elohai aromemka. Eli ata ve'oteka, Elohai aromemka. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov ki leolam chasto. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov ki leolam chasto. 321. Yaleluch Adonai Eloheinu kol maasecha v'chasideka tzadikim u'sorot. Ki lecha tov lehodot l'shimcha ne'el lezamer. Ki me'olam ve'ad olam ata el. Baruch atah Adonai, Melech mehulal patish bakol. Yitkada ve'yitkada shmei rabba, ve'almad yivrach yeruteh, v'yamnich malchuteh, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'gadla u'v'zman karev v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach, le'olam u'me'omaya yitbarach. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha berechu le'lam min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Titkabel toloton uvatahon dechol Yisrael kol dama v'hon levishmaya v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oh say shalom b'mromav Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone. If you'd like to sit for a little bit, you may. We're going to turn back to 168 for the Torah service. Ein kamocha v'Elohim l'Adonai ve'ein kemasecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'ador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim, heitiv avertzoncha et Zion, tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, ki lecha levad betachnu, melech eram v'nisa Adon olamim. Vayehi bin Aaron, vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, ve'afutzu oivecha, ve'anusu misanecha mipanecha, ki metzion tetzei Torah, ki metzion tetzei Torah, udevar Adonai miYerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato.
Master of the universe, as we prepare to read from Parashat Korach and learn about the archdemagogue's lust for power, not for the community, but for himself, I ask your blessing for our Kehillah Kadosha, our sacred community, for those who will be called before the Torah for Aliyot, and for all those who lead us in prayer and song, and for all of us to recognize when our motives are selfish or altruistic. Master of the universe, spread a shelter of your peace over the holy land of Eretz Yisrael. Protect our land so that it can be a source of goodness and Torah for its inhabitants and for the entire world. Petach et libenu b'toratecha. Open our hearts to your Torah. Inspire us to make Torah a part of our lives. Let us be touched by the words and melodies of our prayer so that we may keep you in our minds and in our hearts now and always. Baruch atah shomea tefillah. Blessed One, hear our prayers, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Which two? These two on the left? Because you get rid of the middle one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlul Adonai iti, uneromima Shemo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai Hagedola, Hagivura, V'hatiferet, V'hanetzach, V'hahod, Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamlacha, v'mitnaseh lecho rosh. Oh no, I forgot to say that. Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu l'Adon. Adonai Elohim. You may be seated, everyone. Just a couple notes before we start on the Torah reading. One is I just want to draw people's attention to the community petition as Wendy did it this morning. When Marty Stein, may his memory be a blessing, was the one who really kind of designed that community petition. It was made to have a space in there to be able to mention something unique about the Parsha and bring that into our general prayer, which Wendy did just with a sentence, about kind of Korach and how that could affect our prayer. And then, we realized that in order for participation, not everybody was going to feel so comfortable going in and designing one sentence that's connected to the Parsha to do the community petition, so we made a generic one as well. But I just wanted to let everybody know that if you think like, it might be nice to take a theme from the Parsha and do that as part of the community petition, you have that option, and it's really encouraged. It's wonderful when it gets to happen. So the second thing is just as we're coming into Parshat Korach, we're coming in the middle. It's kind of like right in Korach and his followers. Remember, Korach is Moses' cousin. He's of high leadership, well respected in the community, challenges Moses and Aaron, saying, why do you exalt yourself above the congregation? Everybody is holy. And so we should be able to take leadership too, and there's a whole challenging that assumes, and we kind of drop in right in the middle of the challenge between Korach and Aaron with fire pans, which one is going to be accepted, and so we're right in the middle of this kind of face-off that's going on.
And by the way, on the community petition, if you think during the week you want to do it, contact me. I'll put your name on the roster, and we'd love to have you do that. Our readings begin on page 863 verses 20 through 27. V'yazor v'yagem v'yoshel l'chol ha'chosim bo v'nomar amen. Hakol havugud Eloheinu nu kavod la'Torah Yehuda Lipa ben Areleb Halevi Rishon Baruch Shenatan Torah li'amo Yisrael b'kedushato v'yatem hadbeikim b'Adonai Elohechem chayim kolchem hayom.
Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe ve'el Aharon lemor hibadlu mitoch ha'edah hazot v'achale otam keraga vayiplu al pneihem vayomru el eluchei haruchot lechol basar ha'ish echad yechetav al kol ha'edah tiktso'of Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor daber el ha'edah lemor helu misaviv lemishkan korach datan v'aviram Vayakam Moshe vayelech el Datan v'Aviram vayelchu acharav ziknei Yisrael Vaydaber el ha'edah lemor suruna me'al ohalei ha'anashim harashaim ha'eleh v'al tig'u b'chol asher lahem pentosifu b'chol chatotam vayalu me'al mishkan korach Datan v'Aviram misaviv v'Datan v'Aviram yatz'u nitzavim petach ohalehem Unashem uvenehem vitapam.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
The second reading is on page 864, verses 28 through 35. We're in the book of Numbers, for those of you at home. Ya'amor Raphael ben Meir Tila Halevi Shani.
Baruch Adonai and Barak. Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayomer Moshe bezot ted'un ki Adonai shelachani la'asot et kol ha'masim ha'eleh ki lo milibi'i im kamot kol ha'adam yimutun eleh ufukudat kol ha'adam yipaked alehem lo Adonai shalachani v'im bria yibare Adonai ufatzta ha'adama et piha uvala otam ve'et kol asher lahem v'yardu chayim she'ola V'yadatem ki niyatsu hanashim ha'edle et Adonai. Vayehi kichlot lidaber et kol hadvarim ha'ele. Vativakah ha'adama asher tachtehem. Vatiftach ha'aretz et piha. Vativla otam ve'et batehem ve'et kol ha'adam asher lekorach ve'et kol ha'rechush. Vayerdu hem v'chol asher lahem chayim she'ola. Vatachas alehem ha'aretz. Vayovdu mitoch ha'kahal. V'chol Yisrael asher svivotehem nasu lekolam ki amru pen tivlaenu haaretz ve'esh yatsa me'et Adonai v'tochal et ha'chamishim u'matayim ish makrivei ha'ketoret.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah.
Our third reading is found on page 864, verses 1 through 5 in chapter 17. Ya'amdu Elisha bat, Ahuva bat Elisha v'Shoshana v'Avraham Tobiah ben Tobiah. What was the other? Eliah. Shlishi.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, אמור אל אלעזר בן אהרון הכהן, וירם את המחטות מבין השרפה ואת האש זרע הלאה כי קדשו את מחטות החטאים האלה בנפשותם ועשו אותם לקועי פחים ציפוי למזבח כי הקריבום לפני אדוני ויקדשו ויהיו לאות לפני ישראל ויקח אלעזר הכהן את מחטות הנחושת אשר הקריבו הצירופים וירקעום ציפוי למזבח זיכרון לבני ישראל למען אשר לא יקרב איש זר אשר לא מזרע אהרון הוא להקטיר קטורת לפני אדוני ולא יהיה כקורח וכעדתו כאשר דיבר אדוני ועד משה לא. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי העולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. Amen.
For the fourth Aliyah, we are on page 866, verses 6 through 8, and we call Heidi and Richard in honor of their 46th wedding anniversary. 46, right?
And before you call, just want to mention one quick thing. We just read about that the fire pans that Korach and his followers they were all swallowed and the fire pans were already used, that they were to be hammered in to become part of the altar. And so the text itself says that the reason is because so that it should always be reminded that nobody outside the tribe of Aaron should should come into this sacred space. But the commentary on the bottom of the page, on page 860, what is it? 866, that says chapter 17 on the bottom, has some really beautiful commentary. So as Richard is chanting, if you want to also look down and read that commentary, it's worth it. That's all.
No, we're so close.
יעמדו חיה בת ראובן ודבורה וכתריאל בן אברהם ושרה רביעי. And as I was saying, their 46th anniversary is July 9th.
Coming up.
Verse 6.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach. Baruch Adonai Hamborach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Vayilo kol adat. Vayilo nu kol adat b'nei Yisrael mi moharat al Moshe ve'al Haaron lemor. Atem hamitem et am Adonai. Vayahi behikachal hel Aharon Ahada el Moshe ve'al Aharon vayipanu vayifnu el ohel moed Vehine kisahu ahanan vayira kavod Adonai vayivo Moshe Haaron el penei ohel moed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Well, it is an honor and privilege to be able to share the celebration of your anniversary, 46 years.
Yes, Tuesday.
And you both are an inspiration to all of us, but I'll say specifically for me in that your love and connection is something that you keep alive in a joyous way through your travel, through your dancing, through your grandparenting. And I just want to bless you that this year is another just year of health and connection and getting to just enjoy all of the things that make life holy and worthwhile, and we're so glad to be with you and celebrate you in community. Oh.
So say it again.
Is this all right? Okay. All right. Misha berach avotenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah hu yevarech et Chaya ben bat Ruven u'Devora v'Katriel ben Avraham v'Sara ba'avur shaba'u hayom lehodot l'shem kodsho al kol hachesed asher gamal lahem miyom chatunatam u'miyom simchat libam ad hayom hazeh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishmarem v'yatzilem mikol tzara v'tzuka u'mikol nega u'machala v'yizku lirot tzetzaehem oskim b'Torah u'v'mitzvat u'v'torchei tzibur u'v'binyan Eretz Yisrael ba'emunah v'yishlach bracha v'atzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yedehem im kol Yisrael achehem v'nomar Amen. May the Holy One who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah Bless Chaya, Heidi, and Richard Catriel, who are here today with gratitude for all the blessings that their 46 years have afforded them. May the Kadosh Baruch Hu protect and deliver them. May they continue to enjoy God's blessings in the new song of their years to come, embraced by the love of their children and their grandchildren, so that they may live in joy and gladness and peace and companionship. And let us say, Amen. Odi Shama ve'yare Yehuda uvechutzot Yerushalayim. Odi Shama ve'yare Yehuda uvechutzot Yerushalayim. Kol sason ve'kol simcha, kol chatan ve'kol chala. Kol sason ve'kol simcha, kol chatan ve'kol chala. Mazal tov, you guys.
Thank you. Toda rabah. That's beautiful.
Before our fifth reading, we'll have the opportunity for a Misha Berach prayer for Cholim, for those who are struggling with physical illness, mental illness, or addiction. I'll start the blessing, and we'll go around, and if you have names, please stand. Misha Berach Avotenu Abraham Yitzhak v'Yakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech v'Yirapeh Et. Sherry? Also, all those online, please feel free to say the names. We'll include you. Go ahead, Audrey. Elliot.
Jody Kaplan, Robert Strauss, Erwin Kirschbaum, Barry Kirschbaum.
Evan.
Raphael Ventil, Amidat Batliu, Leo Batli Norris, Mr. Malka, Raphael, Mr. Malka, Israel, Yaakov, Ben Tayabela, Shmuel Ben Sivia, Bert Wexler, Catholic Christian.
Joe.
Ben Friedman, Matisse Ben Esther, Chaim Lezer Ben Yaakov, Rabbeinu Bekele Ba'avraham, Yochel Leah Ben Masha, Penny Dibor Ben Beriash, Esther Ben Miriam, Miriam Ben Genedu, Miriam Bas Ben Beriash.
Yisrael Moshe ben Mina, Tzipor bat Yisrael Moshe, Ilan ben Esther Sarah, Chaya Chana ben Binyamin, Chana Tori bat Sarah, Morty Zassen, Zachariah Yosef ben Mor bat Shoshana Tzivia bat Yocheved, Embla, Jonah Calvary.
Lynn Stein, Howard Richmond, Roman Richmond.
Ed Evans, Marlon Evans, Terry Golden, Nancy Sherman, Marlene Matson, Larry Passo, Don Mosier, Raphael Ben Meyer, and Dig Logan.
Leah bat Sarah, Leah Aliyah bat Dina, Bob Keller, Nechama bat Batya, Binyamin ben Mil, Rivka Sharon bat Chana, Pesach ben Little Deborah bat Freda, Sivia bat Sarah, Laser ben Chana, Bracha Chana bat Vega, Yocheved Miriam bat Nechama, Chana Rachel bat Sarah, Yocheved Leah bat Masha, and Naomi bat Maya.
Chaya Binyamina bat Yaakov Shimon Miriam, Sharon Root bat Chana Ze'ev, Mika bat Lepa, Kathy Krinsky, Roxanne Cherry. Akadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem, Lachazikam Urapotam, V'yishlach Lehem Meira Refuah Shlema Min HaShamayim, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf, Betoch Sha'ar HaCholim, V'chazek et Idei Hoskim B'tzorcheihem, Shabbati Milizok Refuah Krova Lavo, Hashtabag Alav Vizman Kariv, V'nomar Amen. El Nare refanala, elna refanala, elna refanala, refuah shlema. Elna refanala, elna refanala, elna refanala, refuah shlema.
The fifth aliyah is on 867, verses 9 through 15. Ta'amod Gila bat Yisrael David Umiriam Chamishi.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor herimu bito herimu heromu mitoch ha'eda hazot v'achale otam kirega v'yiplu al bneihem vayomer Moshe el Aaron kach et hamakta v'tein aleha esh me'al hamizbach v'sim ketoret והולך מרע אל העדה ויכפר עליהם כי יצא הקצף מלפני אדוני היכל הנגף ויקח אהרון כאשר דיבר משה וירוץ אל תוך הקהל והנה היכל הנגף בעם וייתן את הקטורת ויכפר על העם ויעמוד בין המתים ובין החיים ותעצר המגפה ויהיו המתים המגפה 14,700 מלבד המתים על דבר קורח וישוב אהרון אל משה אל פתח אוהל מועד והמגפה נעצרה.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam netam betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Our sixth aliyah is found on page 868, verses 16 through 20. Ya'amod Eliyahu. That's right. Ya'amod Eliyahu ben Asher Dov Yafa Tova.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael v'kach be'itam matem matet leveit ab me'et kol nesiahim leveit avotam shneim asar matot ish et shemo tichtov al matehu v'et shem Aaron amatehu v'et shem Aaron tichtov al mate Levi ki mate echad lerosh beit avotam v'hinachtem ba'ohel moed lifnei ha'edut asher yivaed lachem shama Vaya ha'ish asher evchar bo matehu yifrach v'hashikoti me'alai et tlunot b'nei Yisrael asher hem malinim alechem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam natan betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Our seventh aliyah is found on page 861, verses 21 through 24. Ta'amod. Oh, Devorah Miriam Bat. Chaim Beryl Vitzinka Shavim.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vaydaber Moshe el b'nei Yisrael v'yitnu elav kol nesiehem matel anasi echad levet avotam shneim asar matot umate Aharon b'toch matotam vayanach Moshe et hamatot lifnei Adonai bohel ha'edut vayhi mimacharat vayavo Moshe el ohel ha'edut v'hine parach mate Aharon levet Levi Vayotse perach, vayatzet tzitz, vayigmol shkedim, vayetze Moshe et kol hamatot milifnei Adonai el kol bnei Yisrael, vayiru vayikchu ihish matehu. Okay, this again over here.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'chayei Olam Nata B'tochenu Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Noam Chatzi Kaddish. Okay.
Yitkadav Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Be'al Madi Rachterutei Be'al Michmachutei B'chayechon Uv'yomechon Uv'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Ba'agala Uv'yismahan Kariv Ve'yimeru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam u'le'od me'ol maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yapar v'dram v'yanaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudesha richu le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amihiran be'alma v'yimeru Amen.
Would those honored with dressing the first Sefer Torah, which I believe is Brad and Audrey, please come up to the bima now. Ya'amdu hagmagbia v'hagolelet Sefer Rishon. Please remain standing for the moment. V'zot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe.
Torah, 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 Torah. Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah. Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah. Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. You may be seated. Before we continue with the Maftir reading and the Haftarah, I want to talk a little bit about Korach, because this kind of section, why we had a Chatzi Kaddish at that moment, is because there's a separation now in the service. We've gone from the regular Torah reading to this Maftir, which is going to be a totally separate reading having to do with Rosh Chodesh. So before we move on to Rosh Chodesh, we're going to complete Korach. And the first thing to mention regarding this story is a little bit of a background. One background has to do that the Torah is very particular about not mixing things together. Okay, so you can't mix different kinds of seeds in a field. You can't let the cattle mate with different kinds of species. You can't have clothing, shatnez. You can't have clothing that has wool and linen together. And a lot of the thought is, what is some of this, some of the things, maybe the animals, the fields, we can see how there might be some utility to that. But like clothing, wool, and linen together. And part of what Rabbi Professor Jacob Milgram, who has this incredible commentary on on Leviticus, really talks about is that when you mix things, literally or symbolically, it doesn't preserve the integrity of the original ingredients, right? You mix something together and it creates something new. And sometimes that's great. When we're cooking, when we're making things together, we want to make something new. But the prohibition underlined from Professor Rabbi Milgram is about preserving the integrity of difference, right? And we can see this as a larger theme. We don't want everybody to come and be a homogeneous melting pot. We want to come together in unity as people, as humanity, as all of it, with each person being able to bring their own unique individual background, cultural background, religious background. Like, we come together and we share and we learn from our difference. But there is one verse in Deuteronomy that follows this prohibition against shatnez, which is mixing wool and linen, that you can't do, that says there's one place where you can mix it. And that is in tzitzit, in making tzitzit. If you notice, there is it's called a patil techelet, this blue string in mine, but that is wool, and then the rest of the string being linen. And that whole piece of why we can do that, why we can mix it with our tzitzit, connects to the high priests. Now, the high priest was the only person in the temple that could, all of the priestly clothing could mix wool and linen together. And so the idea about creating the tzitzit and having that be what is on all of our clothing is this connection to the high priest. We're not the high priests to be able to serve in the temple, but as we know, part of what our Torah says is that each person of Israel should be a mamlechet kohanim, like a kingdom of priests, that all of us in our own ways want to try to bring holiness into our lives and into the world. And so kind of the mixing of the wool and linen connecting us to the priests is a way of saying that's part of our charge in the world as well. And we know this, in the high priest, Moses is instructed to make the high priest a plate that they wear right here of pure gold. Does anybody know what that's called? The plate? It's called a tzitz, right? It's called a tzitz, like the tzitzit. And there should be a wooden core of blue that hangs off of the high priest's of this tassel on this plate, just like the blue in the tzitzit. And so maybe it's because the priests have this privilege to it because of the distraction. They don't have the distractions of everyday life. The priests just serve in the temple. They can mix these together. Their whole lives are about focusing on that holiness. They don't have all the things that come into having to make a living and having to be in the world. They're in this kind of refined space. So what is it then that connects this with Korach? There's this concept right here that's called smichut parshiot, which means that there's always a connection between the end of one parsha and the beginning of another. The rabbis make this connection. And the one that we left off with, does anybody remember last week? Parshat Shelach, it ends with a certain section before Korach. It's the last paragraph of the Shema about the tzitzit. That's what we finished with. And then right after that, right after this piece that says, here's this place where you can mix wool and linen together, where you can go ahead. This is this one place where you can do it. Now we start the story of Korach. And what is Korach's argument? We're all holy. Just he has a valid thing. He's coming and he's saying, look, tzitzit, we're all holy. We're all supposed to be kingdoms, of priests. And Moses is saying, hey, isn't it enough that you're part of the tribe of Levi, that your life is about sacred service? Why do you have to be like the top dog? And Korach is saying all of this. And so in a sense, his argument can be true, and it's not so outlandish. But here's where the difference is, and this is the piece. And I want to share something from the Israeli philosopher and Rabbi Yeshayahu Leibowitz. And he teaches that Korach fails to understand the difference between fact and aspiration. Right? When the Torah describes this mandate for tzitzit, it says to remember all of God's mitzvot and to observe them. And then it adds the challenge that you will be reminded to observe all the mitzvot and be holy to your God, and be holy to your God. Israel is summoned to be holy, not that they already are holy. Right? There's a difference here between fact and between aspiration. The tzitzit is basically saying all of us are enjoined that we have the potential for holiness. But it's not something that is already an entitlement. It's something that we actively, intentionally need to bring into our lives. We need to do those acts of kindness that bring holiness into the world, those acts of justice that do it. It's not a given. It's something that we can inspire to. What Korach was going ahead, his posture was a totally different one. It was saying that holiness is a privilege. It's something that we already are. And as a result, what's the danger? What's the danger in holiness being a fact and a privilege and an entitlement as opposed to an aspiration? You can exalt yourself above and say, you can abuse it. I'm better than anyone else. But in one sense, you could say, well, if I say that I'm holy, but I also acknowledge that you're holy and anybody else, how can I put myself above?
I was going to say, it doesn't give us an opportunity to strive towards something if you think you're already there. I'm already holy. I don't have to do anything good. I've already arrived.
Right. I'm already holy. I can do whatever I kind of feel like because I'm there already. There's no necessarily other place to grow. Anything else? Yeah.
The concept of holiness is separateness from whole. Being kodesh l'chol, all right? If everybody's holy, how do you distinguish between the two? You've lost that ability to distinguish, and that's one of the reasons why they had Shabbos and the other
Yes.
Kilayim and all the other concepts of separation, going back to your initial point of the integrity of each on its own. If everyone's holy, you've lost that ability to distinguish.
Right. If everybody's holy, remember holiness, even the word kadosh or kadesh has this sense of being separate, of a separation in some way. And it's a way of saying that there is ordinary, there is the way that, and one could even say the way that we are as our own animalistic natures, right? That is about survival and is focused on the self and is all of these things. And then there's the aspect of us that thinks about other people and thinks about the larger context and all of those things. And if I mush them all together, then I can justify my own selfishness, my own base desires or whatever, and say, it's fine because this is holy. All of me is holy. There's nothing to separate over. So this idea of separating is to say, yes, there is something that's not a holy aspiration. And I need to acknowledge that. Because the truth is, and this comes back to what you mentioned, this prohibition against mixtures, right? It's about preserving those distinctions because we're all mixtures. We're all light and dark. We're all good and bad. We're all holy and profane. We're all in service to something greater and just about ego and what we want. And what happens is we confuse this mixture all the time, right? So much of the time we come to things, even things that are altruistic, that we're wanting to do of service, we might have some ego, self-centeredness that is a part of it that we're bringing. We want to be the helper. We want to be recognized. So we were talking at our dinner table the other day so much about Maimonides' ladder of giving, of saying, like, why is it a kind of a higher, greater level to completely give anonymously, right? Without any recognition, in some way that the person doesn't even know where they got it from. Because then there's no way to have it be about me. It's just about the act that's happening. So part of all of this, of Korach and this piece, is that holiness is an aspiration, and we should always be aware in ourselves and of others where we want to rationalize and justify our own needs for the sake of something greater, as opposed to aspiring to be that something greater. Shabbat Shalom.
You'll find our Moptir reading is on page 930, chapter 28 in Numbers, verses 9 through 15.
Yeah. Oh, yes, thank you.
Ya'amod Harav Yosef ben Beryl Bechanerezo Hamaftir. There it is.
William, yeah. Baruch Hu et Adonai Baruch.
Adonai Baruch, Leolam Ba'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Ba'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. 932.
Is it 932?
The page?
32, okay.
932.
Amen. Uvayom HaShabbat Shnei Kivasim B'nei Shana Timimim Ushnei Asronim Solet Mincha Belulav Hashem and V'nizko Olat Shabbat V'Shabbato Alolat HaTamid V'nizka Uvroshei Chodshechem Takrivu Allah Ladonai Parim B'nei Vakar Shenayim V'ayel Echad Kivasim B'nei Shana Shiva Timimim Ushlishit Ushlosha Esronim Solet Mincha Belulav Hashemen Lapar Hayachad Ushnei Esronim Solet Mincha Belulav Hashemen La'ayil Ha'echad V'Isaroni Saron Solet Mincha Belulav Hashemen La'keves Ha'echad Olareach Nichoach Isheh Ladonai V'Niskechem Hatziahin Yeh Lapar Ushlishit Hahin La'ayil B'Revi'it Hachin La'keves Yahin Zotolat Chodesh B'Chodsho Lechodshei Hashana U'Siyirizim Echad B'Lechatat Ladonai Alolat HaTamid Ya'aseh V'Nizkor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No reason to
No need
roll.
to roll.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Lifting and dressing the second Sefer Torah. Please come to the bima now.
Who's dressing? Oh, yeah, yeah, it's me.
Ya'amdu hamagbiya v'hagolelet Sefer Sheni. Please stand as you're able. Mizot HaTorah asher samoshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, Torah, yes, Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah,
Torah, Torah, I got it. Torah, Tziva, Lanu, Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva, Lanu, Moshe.
The special Haftarah for Rosh Chodesh is Isaiah 66, 1-24, which begins on 12:20. Rabbi Joe will be starting on verse 17 through 24. 12:20, 1220.
12:20 verse 17.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'minim tovim v'ratza b'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo b'nvi'ei ha'emet v'atzedek. המתקדשים והמתאחרים אל הגנות אחר אחד בתווי אוכלי בשר החזיר והשקט בהר יחדיו יאספו נאום אדוני. ואנוכי מעשיכם ומחשבותיהם באה לקבץ את כל הגויים והלשונות וראו את כבודי ושמתי בהם עוד וששילחתי מהם פליטים אל גויים ותרשיש פול ולוד משקה קשת תובל ויד בהן ועם הרחוקים אשר לא שמעו את שמעי ולא ראו את כבודי והגידו את כבודי בגויים והביאו את כל אחיהם מכל הגויים מנחה לאדוני בסוסים וברכבת ובצבית ובפרדים בכרכרות על הר קודשי ירושלים אמר אדוני כאשר יביאו בני ישראל את המנחה מלכי טהור בית אדוני וגם מהם אקח לכהנים לוויים אמר אדוני כי כאשר השמיים וחודשים בארץ הקודשה אשר אני עושה עומדים לפנינו אדוני כן יעמוד זרעכם ושמכם בחיה מדי החודש בקודשו ומדי שבת בשבתו ויבוא כל בשר להשתחחות לפני אמר אדוני ויצאו וראו ופגרי האנשים הפשיעים בי כי תולעתם לא תמות ושם לא תגבה והיו הרעות לכל בשר והיה מדי חודש בקודשו ומדי שבת לשבתו ויבוא כל בשר להשתחחות לפני אמר אדוני ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם צור כל העמים צדיק בכל הדורות האל הנאמן האומר ויעשה המדבר ומקיים שכל דבריו באמת בצדק נאמן הוא אדוני אלוהינו ונאמנים דבריך ודבר אחד מדבריך עקור לא ישוב ריקם כי המלך נאמן ורחמן אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל נאמן בכל דבריו רחם על ציון כי בית חיינו לעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניך שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו על כיסאות לשב זר ולא נחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מגן דוד. See which one. על התורה ועל העבודה והדין ועל יום השבת הזה ועל יום where is it? לקודש הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לששון ולשמחה לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש בשבת וישראל והזמנים. Birth to you.
Lead us in a prayer for Israel on page 178.
Sandy first? Yep, then you do it. That's okay. You can stay here. You can do it together.
Peace go together.
There we go.
Usually we say the Hebrew first, but that's okay.
Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'go'alo, Barechet Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Smechat Gehulatenu, Hagen Aleha Bevrat Chastecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shalomecha, Ushlach Orcha B'mitcha, לראשי אתרי ויוצא ותגנם עצה טובה ועצה טובה מלפניך חזק את ידי מגיני ארץ קודשנו והנחילם אלוהינו ישוע ועטרת ניצחון תעטרם ונתת שלום בארץ ושמחת עולם יושביה ונאמר אמן אבינו אבינו שבשמיים.
That's the English one.
Hey, come over to Mike.
May we see the day when war and bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the whole world. For all who live on earth shall realize we have not come into being to hate or to destroy. We have come into being to praise, to labor, and to love. Fulfill the promise conveyed in Scripture, I will bring peace to the land. And you shall lie down, and no one shall terrify you.
I will rid the land of vicious beasts, and shall not be ravaged by war.
Let justice and righteousness flow like a mighty stream. Let God's peace fill the earth as the waters fill the sea. And let us say, Amen.
Noam will lead us in a special prayer that's not in your book for our captive brothers and sisters.
Please stand. Achenu kol beit Yisrael hanatunim b'tzara uvashivya haumdim ben hayam uven hayabasha hamakom yirachem alehem v'yotziei mitzara liravacha ume'afela la'ora umishibud legula hashta ba'agala bizman kariv v'nomar Amen. As for our brethren, the entire house of Israel who still remain in distress and captivity, whether on sea or on land, may God have compassion on them and bring them from distress to relief, from darkness to light, from servitude to redemption, at this moment, speedily, very soon. And let us say, Amen.
You can remain standing. Torahs, stand up. Page 183. Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado, hodu al eretz v'shamayim, vayaren keren le'amo, tila lecho chasidav, lifnei Yisrael am grovo. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Mizmor leDavid. Havul Adonai v'nei Elim. Havul Adonai. Kavod va'oz. Havul Adonai kevod shemo. Shtachavul Adonai v'hadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai al hamayim el hakavod hirim. Adonai al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach. Ein. Kol Adonai v'hadar. Kol Adonai shover arazim. Shaber Adonai et arzei havanon. Vayar kidem kemo hegel. Levanon v'siryon kemo ben re'emim. Ein. Kol Adonai chotzet lavotesh. Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai Yechol Elayalot, Vayechesov, Ye'arot, Uvechalo, Kulo Omer Kavod, Ein, Adonai Lamabuya, Shava Yeshev Adonai, Melech Leolam, Adonai Os, Le'amo Yitain, Adonai Yevarech et Amo Vashalom. Uvnucho Yomar, 184. Ki lekakto natati lachem Torati al tazovu et chaim hi lamakazikim ba Vetom hecha meushar deracheha darkei noham v'cho netivotecha shalom Ashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu kekedem. Invite you to stay standing as we go right into Musaf on page 184. This is also a special Musaf for Rosh Chodesh, so we'll transition with Chatzi Kaddish on 184, and then we'll skip to 193. So have a finger in 193. What's that? A leaf here. Yitkadav v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Ve'amati v'rakirute Ve'amlich malchute B'chayechon uv'yomechon Uv'chayei decho be'Yisrael Ba'agala uv'izman karif Ve'imru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevorach Le'olam u'me'omaya Yitbarach ve'yishtabach Ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh Ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalal Shmei Kodesh Abrechu Le'ela min kol berchata Ve'shirata tushbechata ve'nechemata damiran be'alma ve'imeru. Amen. Page 193, and when we get into the core of the prayer, the fourth bracha, really invite you to look at those connections between atonement, Yom Kippur, and Rosh Chodesh, which is all in the prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'zocher chasdei avot, umevigo el lifnei b'neihem, leman shmo b'ahava. Melech ozer ufoked umoshia umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham ufoked Sarah, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומיתו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש, המקדישים שמך בקודש, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו, כבודו מלא עולם, כבודו מלא עולם, כבודו מלא עולם, משרתיו שואלים זה לזה. Aye, 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 mikom kevodo. Aye, 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 mikom kevodo. Lumatam baruch yomeru, baruch kevod Adonai, mimkomo. ממקומו הוא יפן ברחמים, ויחון עם המייחדים שמו, ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים באהבה שמה אומרים, שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד, הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית, לעיני כל חי, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ודברי קודשך כתוב לאמור, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. shalom, shalom bimromav. Uyase shalom. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Uyase shalom. Uyase shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Page 203. Yitkada v'yitkada shmei Rabbah ve'amad divrak yeruteh v'yamlich malchuteh b'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayidech chol beit Yisrael Bagalav Vizman Kariv Imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Leolam Meomaya Yitbarach Yitbarach Vishtabach Yitbar Vitromam Vitnaseh Vitadar Vitalev Vitalal Shemei Dekudesha Berechu Leilamin Kol Berchata V'Shirata Tush Bechata V'Nechemata Damiran V'Alma Vimru Amen. Titkabel Torot Honovat Hon Lechol Yisrael Kodam Avon Levishmaya V'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oh, say Shalom B'mromav Huya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'imru Amen. If you're able, please stand. 205. Aleinu Leshabeach Ladon HaKol לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשה וקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד, אין עוד. על כן נכבד לך, אדוני אלוהינו, לראות מהרה. ולתקן עולם ומלכות שדי וכל בני. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו echad. You may be seated. Page 207 is Mourner's Kaddish. We continue to remember our members' parents who died this past year, Ruth Lupel, Libby Zweig, and Muriel Rudolph. We're also observing the following yahrzeits this week. Please stand in honor of your connection to them. Sylvia Asner, Ione Auerbach, Jack Beitstock, Sylvia Belzer, Philip Belzer, Mary Brill, Thea Bussell, Herb Chasman, David Cuevas, Muriel Engelman, Buzz Faber, Harry Gable, Alec Garon, Julius Glantz, Murray Granite, Fanny Grinikoff, John Gross, Bella Heinel, Edward Handman, Louis Horowitz, Anna Horowitz, James Horowitz, Shirley Eisen, Milton Jasper, Mosafar Shmuel Kalai, Toivo Kariananian, Jerome Kaufman, Cynthia Rana Kessel, Faye Klein, Philip Kramer, Sarah Kurtz, Gilberta Leroux, Jack Lawrence, Teddy Lipton, Joyce Lorch, Mildred Lubach, Eleanor Markowitz, Alan Miller, Robert Norman, Tilly Paris, Teresa Peretz, Harry Pfeffer, Alex Polanski, Sarah Richmond, Louisa Reutman, Kenneth Rosen, Michael Richard Rosen, Nettie Rudolph, Edward Sachs, Julia Schack, Honey Scher, Ethel Schmuckler, David Semmel, Frederick Stein, Enrique Springer, Jorge Taratuta, Benny T., Lee Trimble, Arthur Waltzman, Joan Ward, Julius Wadisky, Wayne Wolfson, Doris Zam, all those who perished in the Shoah, all those innocent who have died in the Middle East. We're also not in the Shiva period yet, but our beloved Jack Lawrence passed this week. We won't be sharing funeral information. They're not members at this point, but if you, I don't know if you have any information, Wendy. On Monday.
At 10 o'clock. Shiva will be in Laguna Woods. If you like, I can open the woods so anyone can come in. It'll be Wednesday night and Thursday night at 7 o'clock at Helen Lawrence's home.
Okay, great, thank you.
The address.
Okay, so please. Okay, Helen Lawrence's page, Facebook page, if you want to get information. And what, just for those who are tuning in, what Rabbi Joe was saying is funerals up in LA on Monday, and then Shiva at Helen's home in Laguna Woods, Wednesday and Thursday. Any other names that we're saying Mourner's Kaddish for?
Shloshim for my aunt Karen Minnick and the yard site for my mother Ruth Minnick Meadows.
Okay, thank you. You may stand or sit according to your custom for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah v'alma divra kerutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael b'agala uv'izman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'omei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal shmei dekudisha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata damiran b'alma v'imru amen Yehei shmei amarabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen Osei shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for blessing. Okay. Shabbat shalom, everyone. What a beautiful morning. Thank you, everybody. Thanks all of our Torah readers and service leaders and for just a beautiful morning. Some stuff going on this summer. Just before even going on, just to really appreciate just Sandy and her crew for continuing to make lunches happen here. Really, if you're able to come and help out once in a while, it would be much appreciated. Here's a few things. Our 20s and 30s, Roaring 20s and 30s group trivia night is on July 10th. You can call the office for details and location. There's a men's club monthly breakfast. It's this Thursday, July 11th at 9:30 at the Broken Yoke Cafe in Mission Viejo. Also, our 11th annual Child Spree is coming, July 28th, probably from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Our congregants will take 65 foster children on a TBE-sponsored shopping trip to buy them back to school clothes. We need volunteers, people to volunteer at the event, to take kids around. That would be great. And of course, golfers, or even people who don't golf but want to be a part of a wonderful community, wonderful dinner that's happening. Our annual golf outing is July 17th at the July 15th. Yeah, I knew that, but this says the 17th. So at Tijeras Creek Golf Club. And there's all kinds of prizes and everything else. We've been saying it for forever, so I'm just going to skip on that. Weekend at Pebble Beach. You can do it.
There to win, and there are only 52 opportunities, which means your chances are really good.
Just like a deck of cards.
It's exactly, it is a deck.
All right. Okay, wonderful. So I hope everybody will be able to join us after services for Kiddush and for lunch. Page 211, Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Ve'et Nasa Ve'hefso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kiklot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hoveh Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Ve'hu Echad Ve'ein Sheni Laham Shelo Lehachbira Ve'imru Shit Ve'li Tachlit Ve'lo Ha'oze HaMisra Ve'hu Eli Ve'chai Goali Ve'tzur Chevli Be'et Sarah Ve'hu Nisi Umanos Li Ve'nad Kosi Be'yom Ekra Ve'yado Avkiruchi Etishan Ve'ayira Ve'imruchi Geviati Adonai li velo ira. Shabbat shalom.